Hey guys, welcome back to IMFL. It's been about 2 weeks since my last video. I've missed you all, guys. Today is 14th of June and that's a special date in the Kwachi calendar because Talia turns 3 today, so I'm quite excited. Today I'm coming to you guys with another interesting video. And it's basically to bring you guys into my ministry journey. So as a lot of you guys know, I'm married to a wonderful man who is a pastor in the Church of Pentecost. Now, a lot of you know that he's a pastor, but you don't actually know how we came into ministry. So today I just want to share a little bit about the journey, how we got there, what the process was like. So if you're interested, keep watching. So guys, ministry. It has indeed been an interesting journey. It's been about 6 years since we came to ministry. Five, let's say 5 going on 6 years. My maths is bad, guys, you need to forgive me. And yes, I'm a chemistry teacher. But yeah, so 2015 was basically like the year we got called into ministry. So I'll give you the download. Obviously 2014, myself and my husband Richard got married. This was in April 26th to be precise. And then I worked for a little bit, about 6 months. That was my first proper teaching job. And actually I stayed on from where I did my final placement for my PGCE. And I found out I got pregnant not long after we married. So I only worked for a solid 6 months and then I went on my maternity leave. So come February, I was due, that was my due date for having Tabitha, and she was overdue by 2 weeks. So where we were living at the time was 1 bed and we had recently moved to a 3 bed. And I think 2 weeks after Tabitha was born, my husband got called to an interview by the church. Now, obviously, as you guys know, Church of Pentecost, it's not like, you know, a secular organisation where you apply to the job of a minister. So if they feel that the call of God is upon your life, then you are sort of notified. They call you up and, you know, speak to you about it. And then tell you that, you know, for this reason, you've been chosen to go into full-time ministry. And of course, in our church, it's not like temp ministry where you're a minister in the church sort of part-time and then you're doing your job part-time. It requires for you to leave your secular job and then come into the ministry of the church as a pastor full-time. Now, of course, as most of you know, my husband was working at Barclays as a wealth manager at the time. So we went to the interview. In fact, we took baby Tabitha, who was only 2 weeks, with us to the interview. And I must say the main reason why we took her so that we wouldn't take too long, because you know how our people can be sometimes, you know, leaving her at home with Nan. She's not used, she's only 2 weeks old. She's breastfeeding. So it meant that I needed to take her with me so that at least, no matter how long it would take, I'd be comfortable. So we took her, and obviously by the grace of God, that process was successful. That was the area interview, I believe, and then we went on to the national interview, of which my husband passed as well. Now obviously during the interview, it's not just the man. Of course they ask the man most of the questions, but they also bring the wife in, the woman in, to ask if you approve for your husband to be a minister. And I think the reason why is because you can't go into ministry thinking that, you know, I'm the man, I'm the one that's called, and then that's it. Because it has a lot of bearing on the wife as well, and also on the family. So I feel like as a woman, if you're not 100% sure that you want your man to go into ministry, then they won't force it, or they won't go against the woman's wishes, if so to speak. obviously it's up to the man to speak to the woman and see where her head's at before you even attend the interview. But I think as a couple, if you're gonna dedicate your entire life to God's work, it needs to be a decision that comes from the both of you, because you're both going to be doing the work. And there's a lot of expectation on a woman as well when it comes to ministry in our particular church. So that was that. So this was 2015. And obviously it meant that when he was accepted, this was around March, April, went for the interview. September, he needed to go to Bible school. Now, Bible school is actually in Birmingham. So he had to go up to Birmingham, but because we had only just got a new place, the mortgage was quite expensive. And as you could imagine, I was on maternity leave. I'd only worked just shy of 6 months thereabouts, so I wasn't entitled to maternity pay. So it meant that whatever income was coming wasn't going to be enough to pay the mortgage. And at the same time, my husband, having left his job to do the ministry role, would meant that he would have to suffer a pay cut, which we were comfortable with at the time, because we knew that at the end of the day, if we're doing it for God, then there's more than financial reward, if you get what I'm saying. But realistically speaking, it means we can't pay our mortgage. So it meant that I needed to go with Tabitha to Ghana for a bit. So the plan was for me to go to Ghana, because my parents were there at the time, and stay for a year, which was the duration that he'd be schooling at the theological seminary for, so that when he finishes, then we would go to our first station. So, you know, it was quite a sad time at the time. Imagine, you know, you've only just newly married about a year, and you've had a baby, and your baby's just very fresh, like a few months old, and your wife and your kid have to go to another country to stay, just so that you can obviously make ends meet, without losing your property. And it meant that looking at it, like when we were really deep in it, we realized that actually it means that he might not be able to see her first walk, he might not be able to hear her first words. You know, it was really emotional. And obviously as a wife, as a husband, you would miss each other because you'd only been married a year. So it was a really big decision to make, but it was one that we were willing to make anyway, because we knew that if God had brought us to it, he was going to take us through it. So long story short, I went to Ghana. Obviously, like I said, the plan was for a year. I stayed there for 8 weeks, and then one day I picked up the phone, I called my husband, and I was like, I'm coming back home. And he was like, what do you mean you're coming back home? You know, you always ruined the plan. We had a plan. We said 1 year. Where are you going to stay? How are you going to survive? And I was like, listen, all right, let me tell you, I've got it all planned out, right? I'm going to come round. I'm going to come and stay with your mum. My husband's mum, my mother-in-law. And then he was going to say something. I was like, don't speak until I've told you the whole plan. So I'm going to stay at your mum's house, my mother-in-law's house. I'm going to work 3 days. I've already contacted the agency. They have a job ready for me to start after Christmas. So I'll go 3 days, take Tabitha to nanny for 3 days. And then 2 days I will stay at home and I will look after her. So initially when I said it, it sounded absurd. He was not interested whatsoever. And then obviously, woman, you've got to do your thing. I persuaded him and he agreed. So he booked me a ticket. I came to London. In fact, I came on the 25th of December, 2015, that same year, 2015. And he met us at the airport, and it was such a sight. Like, he literally shed a tear when he saw me and his daughter. I think it was more for his daughter because he had not seen her in 3 months and she'd grown so much. And obviously we were sharing pictures and talking every day and stuff. People would say, why didn't you stay in Ghana for a year? Don't get me wrong, I love my country. I love Ghana. It's like one of the best countries in West Africa. But at the time, I think it was just one. Obviously, I miss my husband very much. I miss the family unit, which is what I was looking forward to, getting married, you know. So not having that, obviously going to stay with parents as well, when you've sort of left home and then you sort of come back, I feel like things are not the same. I feel like you kind of grow up, and then when you're coming back, it's almost like you're taking a few steps back. So that was another thing. And I think just at the time, there was a lot of like outages, light outages and stuff, and like mosquito bites and stuff. So I think like stuff like that really sort of put me off, and I thought, you know what, I'm a 24-year-old young lady. I can't just stay here for a year pretty much doing nothing, because obviously I had the little one. So it meant that going out to like work and stuff was going to be quite difficult. I also felt like obviously working, I might not make as much as I would want to. Transport systems aren't as great as they would be here and stuff. So I decided against working, but then I decided that I wanted to move to London. So I moved to London. I did 3 times a week job, just as I said I would. So my husband would come from Birmingham to London to visit me and his daughter every now and again. And that year went. So obviously come transfer time, when he finished his year and he graduated, a week before he graduated, his father sadly passed away. That was another massive headache that we had to deal with. It was really heartbreaking because aside the fact that his dad passed away, he didn't actually get to see his son finish Bible school. So that was another whirlwind of emotions to deal with. And then obviously we had to overcome that and move to our first station. And the first place we were stationed at was Cardiff in Wales. So I would say that I had mixed emotions or mixed feelings at the time when I found out that that's where we were going. Purely because having been born in Holland, when we came here, I've lived in London all my life. So I've grown up in London, my family's in London. So having like moved and then like I found out about Wales, I was like, oh my gosh, Wales is like a whole different country. They speak Welsh. I didn't know what to expect, but I must say it was one of my best years in ministry so far. It was different. I actually enjoy the countryside. I always say I'm a city girl and I do love London because that's kind of like where I was bred. However, I do really like the countryside living, especially for a family. It's quiet, there are good schools, it's not as noisy as you'd get in London. You know, you wake up in the morning and instead of hearing police sirens and people shouting on the top of their voices or car horns hooting and the rest of it, you actually hear animals and horses in your backyard, you know, people taking their horses for a ride and stuff. So I think that tranquility I definitely miss. So fast forward a year later in Wales, we get transferred back to London, where he's been given a different role looking after Pensa, so all the university students, and it involves a lot of travelling. So that also came with its fair share of challenges. It meant that he could travel from London to Portsmouth and back the same day. There were times when he would travel to Aberdeen. So it was all up and down the country. It's challenging in the sense that obviously you don't always get to follow him. I was working full-time at the time as well, and I had 2 children. So it was quite difficult as a family unit. I was trying to balance all of those things. We were both very busy. I was busy teaching, doing extra sessions like tutoring, and he was obviously up and down the country as well, and then you know, supporting people on a personal level, mentoring people as well. So it's been quite tough, but nonetheless very rewarding. As you all know, he's currently taken up another role as the National Youth Pastor, so he'll be looking after even more young people. We are excited to say the least. And I just, wanted to put our story out there for those of you that didn't really know how we got into ministry. Obviously, ministry isn't a call of man, it's a call of God. It is a higher calling, and it requires that you put everything that you have, your energy, your heart and your soul, into everything that you're doing. So just to enlighten you about our journey so far, as I continue to make more videos, I will pitch in sort of how things are going with us currently. And if you're watching me today, I just want to encourage you, anything that God is giving you to do in his kingdom, work fervently at it, because it's the laborers that get a reward, not the spectators. You know, if God has called you to do something, he will give you the grace to excel in it, as long as your heart, soul and mind is in it. Give everything for the Lord, because at the end of the day, that's what we're living for. This world will pass, but then there's another life after that, and it's what you did in this life that counts. So make every moment count rather than counting the days. And yeah, that's our story. That's our ministry story. So I hope you enjoyed it today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Share it with someone to encourage them. And I'll see you guys again in my next video. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment below. I'm happy to answer any questions on our ministry journey so far. Take care and stay blessed.